All right, so you have a PDF with a lot of resources that Kali offers that are organized using this cycle as a framework. Whether you are looking for an internship or a full-time position, you can begin with really any of the elements listed here. And just kind of keep going around. It's really up to you to think through how you want to get started. The key is just to get started somewhere. And so I want to give you some space to just take a quick look, like what on here have you done already? Like, have you taken some space to think about, okay, what am I even looking for? Have you done a little research? Have you been on Handshake and just sort of throwing darts, right? Kind of seeing what's out there and sending a resume off. What on this cycle has come easily for you? And where on this cycle have you felt like, oh, that's one that I am not familiar with? That's one where if you ask me, oh yeah, just, Emily, just go make some connections. It'll be great. You would maybe recoil and go hide in your bed that you're sitting like 3 feet from right now. So yeah, take a quick look at this. Think about one area where you feel pretty comfortable and one area that is decidedly less so. And if anyone wants to send that to me in a private chat or in everyone chat, that would be great. And I was speaking to this a minute ago, but the way we go through this cycle is going to look different based on the experiences we've had, based on the identities that we hold. I think about a student I worked with, as a Black trans woman, or another student I've worked with recently as an international student, feeling like, oh man, the way I go through this cycle, the way I seek opportunities and figure out what spaces are going to be welcoming or good, that's going to be really complex and challenging. I'm thinking about a student in the college who might feel very disadvantaged when going through this cycle. Like, oh man, all those kids in the business school, they have all this extra stuff, or I think they do. I don't know if they do. We're all on Zoom, but what's going on? Thinking about, conversely, a student who's maybe networking for the first time and find somebody that holds a shared identity or a shared experience and maybe has a positive experience with that. And that's a little bit of a surprise. Lots of ways to go through this, lots of ways to feel about it. Again, thanks for your patience with me in this slow start. But again, our goal here is to really empower you to understand the elements of the cycle and to go through them in a way that feels authentic for you and good for you. All right, so let's jump in here. Introspection, I'm just gonna breeze through this, and I don't want you to think it's because Kali isn't about this. Often when I meet with students for the first time, they say something like, man, I thought you were gonna just try to put me in a box, or I thought I had to dress up for this appointment. I thought I had to know what I was doing before I went through your really corporate looking front doors at Kali. Not at all the case. We actually have a whole team of folks. Half of us are industry specific. So if you do kind of wake up with an idea, you can get strategy there. The other half of us are total generalists. And so if you're staring at these questions on the slide and thinking, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I just feel like I need a job this summer. Know that we can start with you in a one-on-one appointment, even with some basic kind of framing questions like this. And so, yeah, as you're staring at some of these questions, pick one that feels like a good one for you. They're listed in the PDF. I know I'm taking over your entire screen with my screen share. So maybe just consider which one is one that I maybe want to use as a starting point when I'm thinking about this summer. As I mentioned just a second ago, there are appointments you can sign up for on Handshake, whether you're starting with 0 ideas, that would be the career exploration side, or a few ideas around an industry like government or technology or education. That'd be on the industry exploration side. But you can absolutely make an appointment with us to just talk further. We've got some exercises on our website, and those are linked linked in the PDF that you can download and just really kind of choose your own adventure to just ultimately get a few more words to describe who you are and what you're looking for. You'd be amazed, even if you just get 2 or 3 more words, a skill here, a value there, a value being like what's important to me, how do I define success? You can sort of mad lib sentence that into a really, really compelling story in an interview, and a little bit of direction for your search. So introspection doesn't have to mean going on a retreat for 3 weeks and coming back enlightened, although that doesn't hurt. It can be just figuring out a few extra words with the help of a staff member, a colleague, or even a friend. So information gathering, you got a couple words in mind. Now you're thinking about the research side. I just want to share with you a couple of resources here. Again, all of this stuff is listed in the PDF you have. So your job really right now, as I start picking up the pace and just really running through resources, is for you to just flag, oh yeah, I want to come back to that one, or meh, that one's a little bit less helpful to me right now. So a lot of folks, when they think about their couple of words, their starting points, their introspection, they start from an academic place. Like, I like my major, like econ, it's all right, or classics, it's all right. But what do I do with that? Like, what does that get me? And really, the answer to that is not singular. In fact, very complex. But there are some really neat resources we have that can kind of take that major starting point, use it as inspiration, and give you some ideas. And so the two here, what can I do with my Georgetown major, and the post-graduation outcomes? Let me just show you the post-grad outcomes briefly. We survey seniors each year when they graduate to say, hey, you just finished up. What are you up to? Because we'd like to know that. We know it doesn't mean that this is what you'll be doing forever. We know it doesn't sort of indicate how necessarily you are going to be on some sort of trajectory. But it is, I think, pretty helpful just to get a glimpse. And so here's a quick example of some of the functions that folks are in. If you're even just thinking about like, what are some of the terms that I might consider here, that's useful. Let me back up and go into the actual report so you can get a quick sense. So these are organized by year. And what I clicked into first was a real Gestalt overall view, but you can actually go all the way down to a specific major. And so perfectly, this is opened up on page 22 for English, probably right where I left it. And so let's say you're studying English and you're thinking, okay, like how have people kind of taken that as a starting point and run with it? So you're seeing some things that are perhaps, not surprising, like somebody working in K through 12 education right here in DC, but you're also seeing some stories around consulting, around the entertainment industry. Oracle is a huge employer of Georgetown students, and boy, do they not care what you majored in. It's really, really interesting. And so I'm off on a little bit of tangent, but my point is this, if you are introspecting and your major is something really salient for you, we have some interesting data that can be useful as you consider just some opportunities to learn more about, okay? So let me go back here to my other slide. Oops. Yeah, I mean, there are a number of other ways that you can get some information. We're going to talk about informational interviews here in a little bit. Vault, I'd say if you have an idea of what you are curious about, like a term such as journalism, or a term such as entertainment, or you've heard some buzz around this consulting stuff, like what even is that? Who does it, and what does it entail? Vault is like, I don't know what kids these days read. When I was in school, we called it Cliff's Notes, right? If you didn't want to read the whole book, you got the summary quickly and it was helpful. Vault is like that for career stuff. And so if you have an idea, but you just want to unpack it a little bit more, we have paid for y'all to have free access to Vault, and it's great. You can really get lost on that site in a good way. So, you are gathering information to inform your job search in a lot of ways. Some of that's going to be on the internet. Some of it, hopefully, will be in conversations. These informational interviews. That's really what they are just conversations with folks who are doing something interesting, to ask a couple questions about how they framed their story, how they got from an English major to somebody working in tech at Oracle. Questions about how you might uh, leverage a resume to kind of tell your story. Questions around, hey, like, how do I follow up without sounding really pesky? Or where do people find out about jobs in your industry? Because I'm not seeing a ton on Handshake. I think there was a question about that earlier. Do I need to go beyond Handshake when I'm searching for opportunities? And talking with somebody in the industry, as intimidating as it might sound, man, there are some Georgetown alums who don't mind talking about themselves. None of us really do at the end of the day, and who are in databases like Hoya Gateway to actually be a resource for you as you're researching. So I'm spending a lot of time here. I imagine some of you are like, all right, Beth, when are you going to get to Handshake? I have some really hard hitting questions about actually applying for stuff. But I just don't want you to miss this. I think we often foreclose, as in we often have tunnel vision when it comes to our summer or our ideas for after graduation. We're so informed by the people around us, about what we're reading, about some of the identities we hold and barriers we may perceive ourselves to have based on those identities or experiences. It's so important to balance focus and flexibility when you're thinking about job searching or internship searching, especially right now. And one of the best ways to figure out, okay, if I like this thing, what are 5 other things like it? How can I become more flexible? Is to talk with people. Vault's good. It's like I said, it's a kind of a bunch of stuff all on a website that you can really explore. But the students who have really kind of taken that leap to actually talk with folks as they're gathering information, find that it's not usually as intimidating as they imagine it's going to be, and B, can really kind of beeline to some really helpful information sooner. So you'll hear me gab on about networking again, but man, if we were in person, I would be saying that I would buy you a milkshake from Chick-fil-A if you came to me a week after this workshop and said I actually got on Hoya Gateway and I messaged somebody. You'll have my email address at the end of this. If you do it and you email me, I will find some way to reward you. Okay. So this is my colleague put this great presentation together. She's wanting us to have some notes around, like, okay, if I'm maybe going to talk to somebody to gather information, what are the kinds of things that I might ask questions about? We have, this is a bunch of headers, a bunch of ideas for questions. We have specific networking questions listed on our website. And that, again, is a helpful way to just demystify what these conversations are supposed to be or can be, and really think about, all right, like, yeah, maybe I could do this. All right. So now we're getting into some of the more nitty gritty pieces. Part of telling your story, part of putting yourself out there in this process, lives obviously in the documents you prepare. A lot of resources we have to help your documents be the absolute best they can be. I'm going to run through these really quickly. Again, you have them on your PDF, and your job here is to just hear what I'm saying and think to yourself, okay, what one of these do I want to try? Okay. Resume Worded is a new platform for us. It's really cool. I wish I had time to take you in there and show it to you, but they are using some of the most fascinating AI algorithms this career counselor has ever seen, to have you upload your resume or link to your LinkedIn profile, and then give you some really, really, really helpful feedback. So it's, I'm not about to lose my job tomorrow. You can always meet with somebody at the Career Center to talk about these documents, but students have really been blown away by Resume Worded. We've gotten several just unsolicited emails from students who are like, this is really cool. You guys should really make sure people know about this. And so, if you find an opportunity that you're really curious about, Resume Word, it actually helps you customize your resume for a specific opportunity, helps kind of analyze the language in that job description, and then give you even more targeted feedback for that. So it's pretty cool. Definitely worth checking out. If kind of really tailoring your resume is a priority for you right now. You'll see a link here for drop-ins. Just kind of give me a thumbs up. Like, has anyone been to a drop-in appointment at Collie before? Um, yeah. Okay. Cool. So y'all are, yeah. Thanks, Anna. They are lovely. Um, yeah, I think so too. Drop-ins are just a great, quick way to connect with a human. We are offering them morning, midday, and evening Eastern time, so that no matter what time zone you're in, or no matter when things are popping up for you, you can connect. A lot of our drop-ins are staffed by wayfinders who are older students, well versed in the dark art of career development. They are all awesome and just excellent folks to talk with, whether that's to get an initial review of your resume or just to say, oh my gosh, I went to this presentation and this lady just went on and I don't even know where to start. Can you just kind of walk me through some good next steps with regards to my internship search? Drop-ins are really for anything. And again, they're available every weekday, morning, midday, and evening hours. Part of telling, showing your story, of course, is interviewing. I think the key thing to know here is that it's a good idea to prepare. I remember being in college, I think actually as part of one of my courses at Vanderbilt, I was asked to do a practice interview. And you guys, I skipped the assignment. I straight up didn't do it. It's like I didn't even want to know if I was good at interviewing or not. I just figured I would wing it and hope for the best. So take it from me, someone who really doesn't want to do stuff like that, but now really understands the value of it. You can use our other new platform, Big Interview, to just, it's this crazy, creepy AI stuff, but it's great to practice interviewing with the site. We also have mock interview appointments available on Handshake. They're half-hour long. You email the person, a copy of the internship description as well as your resume, and they're really tailored nicely for you to practice well. So nothing you need to schedule or really worry too much about right now, but just know that those are two kind of just-in-time resources that are available to you. LinkedIn, I think the main thing I want you to know about LinkedIn is that, and actually, this is a great question from one of you. Should my LinkedIn look exactly like my resume? Whereas your resume is kind of this one page kind of slice of your story that ideally is kind of tailored to the thing that you're hoping to apply for. Doesn't mean if you want to work in a bank, you have to have like 5 bank internships on your resume. Just means that if that bank says that they value analytical skills, you're showing that you've gotten that in the classroom, and maybe you're showing that you've gotten that in a volunteer sort of setting. So a resume is going to be a little bit more tailored, a little bit more short and sweet, whereas LinkedIn can just kind of be like a running list. Something that you don't really need to curate too much or shorten too much. It's also something that can function a little bit like a portfolio. There's no pressure to do this, but let's say that you are sort of invigorated by research and writing, and you're wanting to get into publishing, and maybe you've actually started a blog or done some dabbling in the space. You can upload some files to your LinkedIn profile and just kind of have that as part of your story, part of your yourself that you're putting out there. So again, no pressure. Really, for me, and I'll show you this in just a minute, LinkedIn is way more valuable as a research tool than it is as a come look at me and find my perfect profile and pluck me out of obscurity and hire me tomorrow. Okay. LinkedIn's way better as a research tool, and I'll show you that in just a second. But it is part of your part of the things that you'll want to consider as you are preparing materials. So I'm glad my colleague put it into this presentation here. All right, the making connections. One of you wrote, making connections is definitely one I'm not comfortable with. We've broken the ice a little bit already in this presentation when we talked about, really conducting research through conversations. But we're gonna come back around to it here briefly. because again, many of you are not comfortable with it, and it's worth it. Not only to think about how to reach out on a site like Hoya Gateway or other Georgetown networking sites, but really even to start just with where you are. Networking does not have to be a scary, intimidating thing that we all picture when we hear that word. Take some time right now, reflect on 2 or 3 people, maybe kind of inspired by some of the prompts here, that maybe know a little bit more than you do about either what other students have done, who might have similar interests or experiences, or who might actually be in a position where you have some curiosity and want to know more. Um, Students have had great experiences, not all the time, but often, connecting with professors. A lot of your adjunct professors, man, they've got a foot in Georgetown and 3 feet in some really interesting work outside. And it's been awesome to hear students who've really kind of gone outside their comfort zone a little bit and said, I'd really like to talk with you about some of the other things that keep you busy. Or I heard that before you came to Georgetown, you were doing this kind of work. Could I just ask you some questions about that? Networking, making connections, it's truly less about having this perfect pitch or sort of selly, smarmy sort of approach. It's really much more about just having some good questions. Okay. So back to that introspection space, I think half the battle there is just figuring out what your questions are. Do I really want to go into this field or not? Is the NGO space right for me, or do I want to actually try for this public service government thing, etc. Those kinds of questions are so valid to bring to a networking space. You're far more likely to sound thoughtful and curious than you are to sound naive and like you don't know what you're talking about. So I've been going a mile a minute. Hopefully, maybe you have a person or two written down. Okay, yeah, this is somebody that I have been meaning to talk to as I've been thinking about my job and internship search. And so, yeah, I am going to write that name down. Think back to some of the other resources we've discussed so far in this presentation. What 1 or 2 really jumps out at you as something that could be particularly useful? Is it that you want to give Resume Worded a try? Is it that you're not going to do a mock interview now with our staff, but you are going to remember to schedule one once that part of your search kicks up? Is it that, yeah, you are sort of curious about how other folks from your major have moved forward, and you'd like to get some ideas there? Or maybe you have, heard me go on enough about networking, and you're saying, enough already, Beth. Okay, I'll go on Hoya Gateway, or I'll try LinkedIn to find some people. Yeah, so when you go to Resume Worded, somebody's got a question about the level of access. Your Georgetown login and the Georgetown branded site for Resume Worded should give you the top level of access. And if you have any problems with Resume Worded or any of our platforms, you can always just pop into a drop-in, or probably the best thing is just to email us at careercenter@georgetown.edu. Okay. So so I was trying to give you some space just to reflect on some things that you want to do next. One more thought on making connections. I've referenced Hoya Gateway and LinkedIn. Let me actually take you into the sites briefly to show you first what I mean about LinkedIn as a research tool, and then to talk a little bit more practically about how you might actually reach out. And then I promise the sort of applying part of the cycle will get there, and you'll leave with some good ideas there as well. Okay. All right. Who has LinkedIn? How have y'all used it? Throw some thoughts in the chat here. What's a word that comes to mind when you think of LinkedIn? Awesome. Luke is ready to connect with everybody. I think that's great. So my word is cacophony. When I look at this like homepage for LinkedIn, I immediately get overwhelmed and want to crawl into a sleeping bag. It's a lot to keep track of. You'll see I have 99 outstanding notifications. It's there are a lot of moving pieces here, that frankly you just don't have to worry about right now. I think the main thing is to, get a profile up. You can copy and paste elements from your resume. While it is okay, as I said earlier, that your LinkedIn profile be totally different, it's also totally cool if you have the same bullet points on your resume as you have on your LinkedIn profile. So no need to be an overachiever here. Um, let's do some research. I'm going to go to Georgetown University, and I want Georgetown School. Okay. Um, so I'm seeing something, my employee only experience. How lovely. I'm seeing something that you won't necessarily, but you're going to see some of the same tabs here. And the key one that all of us can see is alumni. All right. So, if you've ever been curious about data and organizing data and visualizing data, you're going to love this. There are about 130,000 humans in the world who say they went to Georgetown and who have a LinkedIn profile. And at first face, when you're seeing some of this data, you probably are rolling your eyes. Oh my gosh, Goldman Sachs, the World Bank, State Department. This is not so much me. Or maybe you're seeing it and you're loving it. That's fine. But you can chop up these, not literally, but you can chop up the 129,000 data points in a variety of ways. You can do it by geography, by organization, by what they do. This is kind of a finite list. LinkedIn categorizes all of us into one of these buckets. It's kind of interesting. What they studied when they were in school, which, the more you dive into that data, the less of a correlation you're going to see between what somebody studied and what they're actually up to. So take that one with a grain of salt, but you can always add it if you want. You can chop the data up by skills. Have you guys seen the skills part of LinkedIn on the profile where it's like, say all the things you're good at, and then like your uncle endorses you and you're thinking like, what is this? What do I need of this? At the very micro individual level, the skills stuff on LinkedIn, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about it, not all of them positive. But on a macro level, when it comes to actually searching data sets and organizing and getting inspired by some of the things you find, the skills piece is awesome. And so, back to that introspection piece. Remember how I said you just need a couple of words, a couple of ideas. Let's say that one of your word is LA. Let's say that another one of your words is media and communication, some sort of storytelling. Maybe that's all you got. It's just sort of like who is alive and has enough food doing some sort of storytelling in the Los Angeles area. Well, all of a sudden we're down from over 100,000 to 350 people who are making that combination work. And the companies we're seeing are now maybe a little less resonant with the same old companies you're always hearing about from that one kid in your econ class, to maybe a little bit Lethan, I see you smiling. You know that kid. To a much more curated set of ideas for you. Now, can you click on LA Times and be matched with them for an internship? No. That's why we have the whole cycle. That's why there are other things that you'll need to do. But this is what I mean when I say LinkedIn is a really, really interesting research tool. You can throw at it whatever ideas you have, no matter how disparate or disjointed they may seem. And LinkedIn can give you a sense of, yeah, These are people, like these are actual people who are making this stuff work. Okay. Now I'm on a bit of a LinkedIn kick. Um, Luke, that's awesome. Yeah, set up my profile, have pretty much done nothing after that. No big deal. That's fine. That's all you need is a base profile, and then you have access to all this research stuff. Um, yeah, let me just tell you briefly, a lot of students have had questions about, okay, do I need to like upgrade my account and start paying LinkedIn in order to message people and whatnot? That sounds terrible. It is terrible. We don't want you to have to pay for that. So just very briefly, it is okay to click the button and seek to connect with somebody. That's not creepy. It's all right, and you'll be given an opportunity to kind of customize a message, and so we can work with you on what that says. But basically, again, go back to your questions. Hi, I'm studying X. I found you while researching the intersection of media and LA. I have a couple questions. If you have 15 minutes to talk with me, I'd really appreciate it. The pandemic is a funny thing. A lot of students have said, should I not be reaching out to people? We're in several pandemics right now, and is it okay to even network? Sometimes folks are at capacity and you'll never hear back. Other times folks have more free time than usual, and are thinking deeply about you all, are feeling terrible that you cannot go to the tombs right now, and really want to help you in any way they can. And so it's okay to reach out. You can do so by connecting. You also, if you share a group in common with somebody, you can join the Georgetown alumni group. About a third of the Georgetown alums on LinkedIn are in this group. If you share a group in common with somebody, then you can send them a message for free. And so what I usually do with students is we find some folks on that alumni data set search. We write down their names on an old school piece of paper. We pop into this alumni group. We look to see all the members. And then we search for their names. Who was a name? I don't know. Well, you can see, you would just search for somebody's name, and then you have the ability from there to send somebody a message right here for free. You don't have to have the premium LinkedIn or whatever to send them a message. Okay. So if you find somebody on LinkedIn, you're having trouble getting a hold of them, pop into a drop-in or meet with one of our staff in an appointment. We're great at helping you track people down without being creepy. All right. Any questions about LinkedIn? I've spent a fair amount of time here, but I think it's pretty interesting and important. Um, okay. Back to my PowerPoint here. So there are lots of websites, resources to choose from when actually looking for things to apply to. So it is helpful, especially when 99% of our world right now is online and we are constantly moving from one thing to another. Really, really important to just be organized in some basic way. Could be a Google Doc that you keep with links. Could be a ton of tabs open, but we all know what happens when you rely on too many tabs, and then something crashes. There's an application called Airtable. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. Used a lot in different business settings. It's sort of like a sharp, smart, nice looking Excel. And they actually have templates for student job seekers that allow you to kind of organize some of the research you're doing, people you've talked to, things like that. It's kind of fun. So yeah, pace yourself, find a way to stay organized so that you can leave this stuff and come back to it without feeling like you're starting over. I think, the last kind of general thing I'll say about applying before we jump into resources is just to acknowledge the culture at Georgetown. I don't know how long you've been with us at the institution, and what sort of picture you've gotten of student culture during your time here. There is often a very sleep when you're dead productivity culture that is water that we all swim in, and it's toxic. It's not sustainable, and it's not awesome. And so just know, like, when it comes to applying for things, like, it's okay to really pace yourself and just manage. Certain industries, namely finance and consulting, have super early timelines for their recruiting that I think force students who are interested vaguely in those opportunities to sort of fight or flight. And it forces the rest of us who are not interested in those opportunities to wonder if we're behind, and if we should be immediately running and applying to a bunch of things just because our friend is now in their, like, heightened season for applying. So, we're all just sort of staring at each other on these Zoom boxes. I have no idea what sorts of kind of pieces you're absorbing of these sorts of dynamics from wherever you are. But just know, like, different industries have wildly different timelines. And if you are curious about working in a nonprofit space or an education space, that timeline is going to be much later than if you are interested in working for big tech, for example. It's not that certain industries are better than or have it more together. It's about how much they invest in their HR and how much they're able to predict their needs in advance. So I think that's one of the most valuable questions, back to my sort of you should be networking tagline here. Is that's such a good question to ask somebody. Like, what sorts of timelines do you notice in your industry or for your organization? I think half the reason why we get so stressed about this is we think we're too late, or that we've missed a bunch of stuff already. And so just understanding what the reality is and where you are in it is super, super helpful from a just like calming down perspective, as well as a moving forward and being productive perspective. Um, so yeah, you're seeing a couple other tips here. There's no magic number of jobs to apply to. That's part of why we do this career development cycle thing. Is, you start with introspection, you end up at applying, and then you start over again, and you just kind of keep going in circles for better or for worse, until you land something. Yeah, that's great. And I'm seeing some messages from folks with specific questions about employment, and I will follow up with you on that. So, Handshake. I assume that maybe you've clicked around. It's okay if not. Handshake is Georgetown's sort of flagship, trying to put as much here as possible, job search, event search, appointment scheduling platform. Okay. So I know we're talking about applying right now, but I just want to show you, if you do want to schedule one of those appointments, you just click on Career Center and then appointments, and then you can go from there and select what kind of appointment you'd like. If you are a young alum joining us, you have full access to all of those appointments, and that's a great thing for you to keep in mind. Jobs are both jobs and internships. There's a ton on this site, and we add in the hundreds daily, which is both maybe good news and slightly overwhelming for those of you playing at home. I think the key with Handshake, back to what I was saying earlier about how different industries have wildly different timelines, is to do a search, right? Somebody could inspire me, or perhaps I can think of okay. So I just typed in criminal justice. I didn't even do location stuff. What the heck? So much is online anyway right now. You will see a notification, hopefully within the description, for virtual opportunities, by the way. Just typed in something that somebody might be thinking about. this space is going to be all over the place in terms of timeline. It's not like on March 1st, all the criminal justice related opportunities open up and they close down 2 weeks later. And so the best thing you can do is run a search on Handshake and then see this button right here where it says save your search. Just click it. And Handshake will shoot you an email. You can edit notifications anytime to let you know when things related to your criteria pop up. So, the last thing we need in some regards is one more email coming our way. But if it helps us not worry about the FOMO aspect of this, and really in the meantime, prioritize other areas on the cycle, right? Like, then that's a really good thing. And so I think that's another thing I really want to leave you with as we start to wind down, and I'll be taking questions is, progress on this job and internship search is not always just clicking apply. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but you can think about it like a pie chart. Maybe a third or half of your time is actually spent writing cover letters, sending applications out. But what's the other half? Maybe it's conversations with folks. Maybe it's a little bit more research. If you aren't finding opportunities related to criminal justice you're really interested in, maybe just identifying some organizations and then following them, adding them to social media so that you kind of know what they're up to, or even getting brave and reaching out directly to say, hi, I'm a sophomore at Georgetown, wondering if you have any established internship opportunities and what the timeline is for that. I've sat with students when we've cold called some smaller organizations to inquire about things like that. And it's not off-putting. People, I think, really appreciate the interest and are glad to share information. So that's a quick note about Handshake. Just give it a chance. The website, I think the more you engage with it, and sort of, you see here that I can kind of favorite or tag things that I'm curious about. You can do that with events. You can do that with internships, with jobs, really anything on the site you can sort of like, so to speak. That all feeds into the belly of Handshake and allows the system to customize itself for you. Handshake desperately wants to get to know you. It's going to be asking you to fill out a profile. It's going to be, trying to get you to favorite things. And, you don't have to do any of that if you don't want to. But if you do fill out a profile and we get a Georgetown alum who is really interested in some of the things that you clicked and has a job like opening tomorrow, we send those emails out, and we don't email the whole campus. We email the students who have sort of matched their interests in the profile to some of the things that sort of come our way through our channels. And so, the more you engage with Handshake, the more it'll customize, the more your profile is filled out, the more stuff you're going to hear about from our center. You're welcome, and I'm sorry. I want you to know that as a way to help you strategize when you're applying for things. All right. So a couple other ideas as you're searching for opportunities. I'm going to focus really quickly on Idealist, just because I think it's awesome. If we were to have done a more detailed search on Handshake, you would have seen a drop-down menu with lots of industry ideas for you. Do you want to go into law? Is it education? Is it technology? Words like that. One of the things I really love about Idealist is that it's not at all organized by industry or skill set. You can do a search. We call it a function search, where it's like, okay, these are the verbs, right? Like, these are the things I want to do in my work. But you can also search by issue areas. And I think for those of you who sort of came to Georgetown wanting to change the world in some way, for those of you who are taking a class in something that really has you sort of interested or engaged, you're seeing here just some really interesting terms, whether they're identity-based, mental health, microfinance, poverty. Here's prison reform. Someone interested in criminal justice might click this, of course. Just offers a different set of terms to react to and to search through. Lots of things happening on Idealist all the time. I have a location here, so the number of internships is a little bit lower. Idealist tends to draw smaller organizations that don't have massive human resources machines that are cranking out recruiting 10 months in advance. So I'd say, especially as you are maybe applying to things on Handshake initially, and you're starting to get into March, April timeframe and thinking, oh gosh, okay, what are my other options? How can I expand my flexibility while still maintaining a focus on what I'm interested in? Check out Idealist. I worked with so many students last summer. Obviously, a unique summer, but it wasn't surprising at all to me. We were searching for stuff in May, June, and we were finding great opportunities. So keep that in mind. Timelines wildly different. You can also create email alerts on Idealist. So again, whether it's Handshake or Idealist, let these systems work for you. Don't wake up every morning or in the middle of the night in a cold sweat and think that you've missed something and you have to check. Right? You're doing that enough with your classes, enough in your personal lives. I wish I had time to kind of meet all of you and hear how you're doing. But in the meantime, let these systems sort of automate for you and save yourself at least that headache. Okay. So a few other resources here. If you're interested in a specific industry, our industry advisors have built out some great content on our website that can be helpful. Our industry advisors also have newsletters that you can sign up for. Just go to our website and type in the word newsletter. There was a student earlier who had some questions about the investment banking recruitment process for sophomores and feeling behind. Yeah, it's ridiculous. These timelines are just I will refrain from using the word I'm thinking. So, the best way, if you're interested in a particular field and you just kind of want to understand the latest from us, is to sign up for that industry's newsletter. And so again, you can go to Career Center and type in newsletters. You're already signed up for a general newsletter. You're welcome, and I'm sorry. So when you click through, it'll tell you, oh, you're already subscribed, and then click again, and you'll see all the industry options from there. Okay, so talking through lots of pieces here. Again, I want to invite you to take a step back and think, okay, even just in the applying section, what's one thing I want to do in the next week? Is it fill out your Handshake profile? Is it set up a search alert on Idealist or Handshake? Is it to sign up for a newsletter with our industry advisors? Write it down, because as soon as you click out of the Zoom, it's all going to go. The last thing I want to do, and then I'm sorry I'm going a little bit longer than I anticipated. I'm glad to stay on after 3 and answer questions. I'm just going to pop onto our website. Things that I have not dealt with in this presentation, and I'm sorry if they are really central for you as you're thinking about the job search. I'm imagining maybe we have some awesome international students with us, and you're thinking a little bit about some of those visa requirements and how all of that fits in. I think your first step is to connect with the Office of Global Services and just understand the visa stuff right from their website. Their information right online is awesome, and you can of course make an appointment, and then pop back over to Handshake and make an appointment with us. OGS is really great for the rules and regulations. We are really great for your overall strategy. Love to work with you, show you. We have databases of employers who've petitioned for H-1Bs in the past, which is a great indicator of their openness to working with international students. Lots of ways that we can help you navigate. And we actually have some custom workshops that you can find listed in Handshake just for you as international students. I'm also thinking about students. There are probably a bunch of you who are like, okay, Beth, how am I going to pay to have a low or unpaying internship this summer? I'm imagining that's at the table for so many of us. And I just wanted to quickly note under jobs and internships on our website, we've got a link here for Colley sponsored opportunities. It's actually not perfect, and I have a meeting on Monday with our website person to make this a little bit less of a, oh my gosh, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, and a little bit more focused on the main things. So let me just in the meantime tell you what the main things are for unpaid internship resources. We do have a massive spreadsheet of resources that we have tried to compile over the last several years. We've actually been working with the provost office for longer than I would care to say, on just centralizing all of the pockets of funding that exist at Georgetown. So in the meantime, these are my best tips for you. Write down the name Penner, Penner. The Penner Family Experiences Fund is open to all Georgetown undergrads, and is goes so far beyond internships. It's really for any formative experience, whether that's volunteering or research or work, that you are curious about and need some support to make that happen financially. I don't believe Penner has their application for summer opportunities up yet, but just check that website and check our general email newsletter. We will be singing it from the hilltops as soon as they open up their stuff for summer. I also want to direct you to the IDOL Fellows, IDOL Fellows program. This is a really like, think of it like an all-inclusive resort for internships. You find an internship, they provide the housing, some really awesome kind of networking opportunities, a class that you take alongside it, stipend for food and whatever else you need. It's very very much designed for a student who is having a lot of trouble meeting those financial requirements to making an internship happen in DC. And so the application is open right now. IDOL Fellows, that's a really really great resource. And then the last resource I want to say, and yeah, students who need to head to class, I'll send out the recording after this. Last thing I'll say is to talk with your dean. Different schools have different pockets of money. I wish there was just one big bucket that everybody had, but different schools have different ways of supporting students, and there's something for everybody there. And so you can Google like SFS unpaid internship blah blah blah. You can talk with your dean. I think that's another really helpful way to just understand the lay of the land. Make an appointment with us. Don't let finances intimidate you as you consider this search. I guess I'm speaking mostly about internships, but if you are thinking about job stuff as well, maybe you're thinking about short-term gig work, other things in the meantime, we'd love to help students with that transition sort of stuff. All right, it's 3 o'clock on the dot. I've gone on far too long. Let me just quickly